everyone, through my lecture today, I hope it will help you understand how today's Korea was born and what kind of history it has gone through to become today's Korea. Korea achieved independence in 1945 from 35 years of Japanese imperialism. However, Korea's independence coincided with the International Cold War era after World War II. Amid a chaos based on the 38th parallel dividing the Korean peninsula in half, it was confirmed that U.S. forces will be stationed in the south and Soviet troops in the north. After war, two governments were established on the Korean peninsula. In 1948, North Korea, which chose communism, and South Korea, which chose a liberal democratic market economy, were established. Two governments were set up in Korea, but neither recognized the other's authority. Major and minor battles continued around the 38th parallel. In 1950, the Korean War broke out, which left the Korean peninsula in ruins. On June 25th, in 1950, without a declaration of war, North Korean forces crossed the 38th parallel and invaded South Korea. The Republic of Korea lost Seoul, the capital, only 3 days after the war began, and surrendered all areas except Gyeongsang-do province to the North Korean army within 2 months. South Korea's armed forces, which were weaker than North Korea's and lacked soldiers, were pushed back by the North Army, which attacked after making full preparations. South Korea eventually had to move its government to Busan. At the time, the government of the Republic of Korea asked the United Nations for help. The United Nations dispatched UN forces, an allied force of 16 countries directed by General MacArthur of the United States, to South Korea. General MacArthur succeeded in Incheon landing operations, reclaimed Seoul, crossed the 38th parallel, and continued advancing north. Then the communist country of China entered the war on the side of North Korea. After the Chinese military entered the war, the UN and Republic of Korea forces were pushed back and Seoul was taken again. Once this occurred, China and North Korea continued the push and pull battles with the UN and Republic of Korea forces. These battles lasted for 3 years. In order to prevent further victims, armistice talks began, and finally the war came to close as each side of North and South signed the ceasefire agreement on July 27, 1953. The Korean War inflicted severe wounds on both sides. Over 5 million people were killed or injured, and 10 million were separated from their families and became war-displaced orphans. Major facilities such as factories, railways, roads, and ports were destroyed, and farmland was devastated. And the Korean Peninsula, as the world's only divided nation, has faced the national task of a peaceful unification. After the war, Korea was in ruins, and the per capita income was $67 in 1953. Back at the time, Korea was one of the poorest countries in the world that couldn't survive without the aid of the international community. One British press outlet that covered the situation in Korea right after the war published an article saying, "Expecting democracy and economic reconstruction in Korea is like hoping for roses to bloom in a trash can." Economists around the world predicted that the future of Korea would be rather dreary. However, against such an expectations, Korea achieved economic development and democracy at the same time, at a very rapid pace. It was literally like a rose blooming out of a trash can. Korea had a problematic time in the 1950s, and it was hard to live without foreign aid. But in 1962, full-scale economic development began. With economic growth as its top priority, the state-led 5-year economic development plan was implemented. Industrial complexes for export were built in major cities including Seoul and Korea, which had only manpower without resources or capital. It began to grow its economy starting from light industry, which required a lot of labor force. So, in the 1960s, 70s, and 80s, exports rose sharply, and Korea achieved unprecedented economic growth in world history. With this remarkable economic growth, the phrase "miracle on the Hangang River" was coined to make a comparison to the miracle on the Rhine in Germany, which quickly overcame its defeat in World War II. Around the time when the economy was being stabilized, Korea faced another crisis. It was the 1997 Asian financial crisis. Encouraged by the rapid economic growth, Korean companies borrowed money from foreign countries to expand their business excessively, and the government led the economy with inappropriate policies aimed on growth, which eventually led to a crisis. So to address this crisis, the Korean government borrowed money from the International Monetary Fund, which is called IMF, in December 1997. During this time, many companies went bankrupt, and many people lost their jobs accordingly. Nevertheless, Koreans once again banded together to overcome this national crisis. People voluntarily tried to pay off the national debt through gold and dollar collection campaigns. Due to this effort, Korea was able to repay all of IMF loans in just 4 years. The united spirit of Koreans overcoming their crisis brought about many surprise reactions from around the world. Korea suffered from the aftermath of rapid industrialization and urbanization, but the everyday life of Koreans has changed while continuing to grow socially and culturally along with remarkable economic growth. In particular, popular culture and arts are being developed at a rapid pace, sending the Korean wave all over the world. Korean culture is now influencing the world not only through K-pop and K-food, but also K-culture as a whole. Korea no longer represents war, poverty, or dictatorship. In the future, Korea will develop and transform in various ways and continue to help lead the world. So how do you think of Korea? And how will Korea change in the future? I hope this video has been an opportunity to understand and feel the flow of history that made Korea today. Thank you for your time.